friends, how are you doing today? My name is Mary, this is Happily Ever Esch, and today we are doing the middle grade book tag. This tag was created by the Curly Reader. I have really been enjoying her channel, especially her bullet journaling spreads, her bookish bullet journal spreads that she's been doing. So please definitely go check out her channel if you have not. But she loves middle grade and read like a ton of middle grade last year, plans to read a lot this year, and created this tag just to chat about some wonderful middle grade books. So let's just go ahead and hop on into it. Oh, and thank you so much to Krista over at Books and Jams for tagging me. I was getting my questions all ready to do this and then saw that she posted her video and I watched it and she tagged me. So thanks, Krista. I appreciate the tag. All right, question 1 is, what is the last middle grade book that you read? And for me, that is Until Tomorrow, Mr. Marsworth by Sheila O'Connor. I chat about this in my monthly wrap-up for February, but this is a newer release middle grade story. It's set in the 60s during the Vietnam War, and we're following a letter correspondence between Mr. Marsworth and then Renee Kelly. And it's just a really wonderful story about friendship, about the relationship between these two characters, but also about peace, what it means to fight for peace, and what it means to stand up for what you believe in, even when you're getting a lot of pushback from the people around you. So this was a really solid read for me. I really enjoyed it, and I think if you like epistolary novels, this one would definitely be one that you would really enjoy. Question number 2 is, what is a middle grade book that you were read to as a child? And I'm sure I was read a lot of books in school, but the instances that really stick out to me are my dad reading some abridged classics with me that were definitely marketed towards the middle grade age range. I probably at the time didn't know that they were abridged, but I really remember reading The Invisible Man. I think we read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but H.G. Wells and Jules Verne were definitely ones that he really enjoyed, and so I really enjoyed reading all of those with him. And yeah, good memories curling up and reading those books together. And I remember him being so proud, like, oh, like you've read classics, even though like they were abridged versions. But still, to get to experience those books with him was really cool. And I read a book all about reading aloud, and I can't remember what it's called, but I will insert a picture here. I think it's something about the magical hour. It was her kind of goal is to get you to read aloud with your children for an hour every night. And one of the main points that she makes is that it's so important to read to children because they can experience stories and the complexity of them before their reading level, and that their brains are able to comprehend a lot of the story, but they don't have the language skills to actually read it. And I definitely think this was a case for me where if I had tried to read these by myself, it wouldn't have gone well, but because my dad was reading to them and I could just absorb the story and kind of get enveloped in it, it was just a really wonderful experience. Question 3 is, what is your favorite middle grade book that you read as a child? And I have a couple that come to mind. First being Where the Red Fern Grows. I can't remember who the author is, and I don't have a copy, but I'll definitely be inserting a little picture right here. But yes, this was definitely a favorite book. I think the first time I read it was in the 3rd grade, and it was read to me by my teacher, Mrs. Light, I think her name was. And yes, so we read that aloud, and I remember just being torn to bits, like just absolutely sobbing. And then I went ahead and reread it multiple times as a child after that fact. And I know a lot of people reread when they were younger, but that wasn't the case for me. I read lots of different books, but I wasn't a huge rereader. So for me to have reread this book, it must have made a really big impact on me. So yes, that book will always hold a special place in my heart. Also, another series that I was obsessed with as a child is the series of Unfortunate Events books by Lemony Snicket. I never actually finished the series, and I still haven't. A couple years ago, I started to reread and stopped in about the same place I did as a child, but I think I can go ahead and pick up and continue on, and maybe I should make that a goal for myself this year. But I loved these books. I gobbled up. I would remember going to the library. The school that I went to, I lived in a very rural community, and the schools were like old and crumbling. And they have since torn them down and had to rebuild because they just were like hundreds of years old. Not hundreds, but at least 100 years old. And yes, I just remember walking into the little library, which was the only room that had air conditioning in it because there were lots of computers. So they had to have AC in those rooms to keep the computers cool. Going and picking the next one up. And I can remember reading this series like in front of my grandma's house. She had a porch swing. And yes, I was obsessed. I like went on my computer and found like a stock image of this cover and blew it up and printed it to put it on my wall. I loved these books, and still as an adult really enjoyed them. And I think there's a big nostalgia tied to that because the plot is pretty simple and kind of repeats on all the books, but there's something just so fun and like the way that he writes that makes you feel like you're kind of in on the secret, you know, and that the author is willing to tell you all these really tough and hard things that most adults aren't. Yeah, I just gobbled it up. So this is definitely probably my favorite middle grade series as a child. But then also I really loved like the theme or trope or like literary device of like diary style books. If there was a book about a girl writing in her diary, you know I wanted it, and then I would always get inspired and start my own diary and then never finish it. But yes, I loved that kind of book style as a child for sure. Okay, question 4 is what is your favorite middle grade novel that you read as an adult? And for that, it would probably be Anne of Green Gables. I read that last year, and it's quickly become one of my most favorite books. I'm reading Anne of the Island for the Annalong right now, and I'm loving it. Just something about Ellen Montgomery's writing is just so enveloping and cozy and beautiful, and yes, I absolutely love Anne. Another one that I've pretty recently, in the last couple years, read, so recently, is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This was the group pick, I believe, last year for middle grade March, and I did read it last year, and I really adored this book. It was magical, it was heartwarming, there was some pretty heavy themes in it, but it's just handled in such a magical, beautiful way that this is just, it's wonderful for adults, for children alike. I was so excited to find my own copy because I did listen to it on audio, but kind of the premise of the story is there is a small village who lives in this like enchanted forest, and they believe that they have to sacrifice a child every year to the forest to kind of keep it appeased. And this witch comes and finds these children every year, and she's like, why are these people leaving their babies in the forest? So she takes them to the next village over, and as she is caring for the children until she can bring them to their adopted families, she feeds the children starlight. And so she finds this baby, and there's something kind of special and enchanting about this baby. And the witch accidentally feeds her moonlight, and this gives the child magical powers, and she has to keep her and raise her, and the story kind of goes on from there. But yes, like the themes of parenthood and like what it means to belong to a family, like there's some really like weighty topics in here that are definitely great for children and adults alike. So this has been a definite favorite, and I think a lot of people who have read it would echo that same sentiment. All right, question 5 is what is your favorite middle grade author? I wouldn't say that I have a favorite middle grade author as an adult, so I'm gonna answer for my child self, and I guess this can kind of trickle over. And the first one of those would definitely be Roald Dahl. I loved his books as a child. He was some of the first like kind of full-on chapter books that I read. So Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Matilda. Later in my like middle school years, I read the BFG, which I really loved. So yes, he was definitely a favorite. I really felt like his worlds were so magical and quirky and weird, and yes, he's just, I'm sure, has been a favorite for many, many people, and I was no exception as a child. Then also another author that I don't hear a lot about, and I really couldn't vouch for her stories now, but I know I loved her as a child, was Gloria Whelan. She wrote Homeless Bird and The Incredible Journey, which were two of my favorites. Again, two books that I reread multiple times, which I think kind of told me as a child that a story really captured my heart, because I didn't do that a lot. She writes historical fiction. So Homeless Bird is set in India, I believe, and The Incredible Journey is set in Russia. She has some books set other places in Asia, a book about Vietnam. So she was very, like, wrote a lot of books in more diverse places, and so I think that was some of my, like, first exposure to that. Even, like, I don't know if she's, like, the best voice to be writing those stories, but it was exposure to me as a young child, so I do appreciate that. So yes, definitely loved both of those authors very much as a child. Question 6 is, what is a middle grade book that you think should be required reading in school? I think that this is a tough question, and I think there's probably many great picks. I think there's so many impactful books, but one that I've recently, within the last couple of years, read and really enjoyed and was really impacted by and felt like the themes were really timely. And that's Wish Tree by Katherine Applegate. It's a very short little book. I think this would be a great read aloud, but this kind of premise is there's this tree in this neighborhood, and it's an old wise tree, and the story is told from the tree's perspective. A family that moves into the neighborhood, I'm not sure that it's ever expressly said where the family is from, but we are made to believe they're from another country and they're experiencing prejudice based on their nationality. We're grappling with that. We're grappling with the past and past issues of prejudice, but it's also just like a beautifully told story and very magical because the tree is telling the story. So I think it deals with heavy topics in a very interesting way, and a way that children can really kind of dive into them and explore them. So I really enjoyed this one. Again, a short little guy. I think it would be a great read aloud. And yeah, I think this would be a great book for kids of all backgrounds to experience in school. All right, question 7 is, what is your favorite middle grade cover? And this is really hard because middle grade gets it right with their covers. They're usually whimsical and magical, and the artwork is stunning. So it was really hard to pick, but some personally from my shelves I pulled, I've probably talked about before, but yes, the Puffin and Bloom. Oh my word, so beautiful. Every little detail, the spine, the back, I just adore these editions. So that would definitely be one. Some more Ellen Montgomery, these Tundra editions. So this is book 2, Anne of Avonlea. They have her whole Anne of Green Gables series in this. I just have the second one and would like to continue to collect them on. A lot of times these are on Book Depository. I think Tundra is a Canadian imprint, and so Book Outlet a lot of times has some of their editions, and this is probably one of my favorite colors, Emily of New Moon by Ellen Montgomery. I mean, just the whimsy, the color, it's so stinking beautiful. But like the Wish Tree, gorgeous with the tree, and then there's beautiful illustrations, you know, on all of the pages. I mean, just a little squirrel, just stunning. So yes, those are some of the most beautiful ones I own. Some ones that I'm very interested in purchasing, the Wing Feather Saga. These are being reprinted. There's 4 books in this series, and the artwork on these are just beautiful and gorgeous and so magical. I'll put some pictures in here. My husband's very excited about reading this series as well, so I'm definitely going to be purchasing these, and I know they're coming out very soon, like in a couple days, I believe. All right, and last question is, what is your favorite middle grade adaptation? I don't watch a lot of adaptations for books, and so I don't think I have one off the top of my head. There's ones that I would love to watch. I'd love to watch some of Anne's series, the original, and then also the new Anne with an E. I'd love to watch those once I finish with this book series. I'm planning to read Little Princess this month for one of my book selections, and I would like to watch an adaptation for that. Yeah, but if you have any good middle grade recommendations for adaptations, I'd love to know. Please put some of those down in the comments below. I think the last thing is to tag some people. I have some new friends that I would like to tag, and I will do so in the next little clip. I'm gonna put a little cutaway in. Hi friends, I am back with the 2 friends that I want to tag. So Little Prairie Library, Felicia at Little Prairie Library. I would love to see your answers to this, and then also Chantel Clayson. I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce your last name right. Correct me down in the comments, though people give me phonetic and I still don't get it. I'm really bad at pronunciation. So, but those are my 2 friends. I've been enjoying their content, and yes, I would love to see their answers, and I would love for you to go check them out because they're both lovely, and I just love hearing them chat about books. So those are my friends that I would like to tag. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.